Imagine waking up in Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso. The sun is just starting to peek over the horizon, painting the sky with soft colors. It's a peaceful morning, and most people are still asleep. But in the presidential palace, President Ibrahim Traoré is already hard at work. He's not thinking about fancy parties or big buildings. Instead, he's studying papers about farming. President Traoré knows that Burkina Faso needs to grow its own food to be strong. He wants to help farmers plant better crops and have enough to eat. As he sips his morning tea, lost in thought about rows of sorghum and millet, his advisor rushes in, a look of urgency on his face. "Mr. President," he says, "a man is here to see you." He says it's very important. The man claims to be Jean-Luc Dupont, a businessman from France. He insists on meeting with the president right away. President Traoré is a very smart man, and something about this unexpected visit doesn't feel right. He has a gut feeling that Mr. Dupont might not be who he says he is. Could he be a spy? President Traoré's mind raced. Why would a French businessman need to see him so urgently? What could be so important that it couldn't wait? He decided to hear Mr. Dupont out, but he wouldn't let his guard down. "Show him in," the president instructed his advisor, his voice calm but firm. A few moments later, Jean-Luc Dupont entered the room. He was a tall man with slick-back hair and a nervous smile. He wore a fancy suit that looked out of place in the president's simple office. "Mr. President," Dupont began, his French accent thick, "thank you for seeing me on such short notice. I have a very important proposition for you, a business deal that could greatly benefit Burkina Faso." President Traoré listened carefully, his eyes fixed on Dupont's face. He noticed the way Dupont's hands trembled slightly as he spoke. Something was definitely off. This wasn't just a regular business meeting. This was something else entirely. President Traoré knew he had to be very careful. President Traoré leaned back in his chair, listening intently to Dupont's proposal. Dupont spoke of bringing new technology and investments to Burkina Faso, promising to create jobs and boost the economy. But his words sounded hollow, rehearsed. The president's instinct screamed that something was amiss. "Mr. Dupont," President Traoré said, his voice calm but firm, "this all sounds very promising. However, before we move forward, I need to be absolutely certain that this partnership is in the best interests of my people." He paused, watching Dupont's reaction. The nervous smile flickered again. "Of course, Mr. President. I understand completely. I am an open book." But President Traoré knew better. He had a strong feeling that Mr. Dupont was hiding something. He was convinced that this business deal was just a cover for something far more sinister. He couldn't shake the feeling that Jean-Luc Dupont was a spy, sent to Burkina Faso to cause trouble. As soon as Dupont left the room, President Traoré summoned his head of security, a trusted man named Captain Zita. "Captain," he said, his voice low and serious, "I want you to investigate Jean-Luc Dupont. I want to know everything about him, where he comes from, who he works for, and what he's really doing in Burkina Faso." Captain Zita nodded, his face grim. He understood the gravity of the situation. If President Traoré suspected someone, there was usually a good reason. "I will get right on it, Mr. President," he assured him. The president added, "Do it discreetly. I don't want Dupont to suspect that we're watching him." He wanted to catch Dupont off guard, to uncover the truth before the supposed businessman could do any harm. He trusted Captain Zita implicitly. He knew the captain would leave no stone unturned in his search for the truth about the mysterious Mr. Dupont. The safety and security of Burkina Faso depended on it. Captain Zita and his team worked tirelessly, like silent shadows moving through the city. They checked Dupont's passport, his travel records, and his contacts in Burkina Faso. They spoke to people at the hotel where he was staying, asking subtle questions without raising suspicion. Days turned into nights as they pieced together the puzzle of Jean-Luc Dupont's life. They discovered that his business records were falsified, his passport had been flagged for suspicious activity, and he had a history of involvement in shady deals in other African countries. The deeper they dug, the more they uncovered. Finally, Captain Zita had enough information to present to the president. He entered the president's office, his face grave. "Mr. President," he said, "we have confirmed your suspicions. Jean-Luc Dupont is not who he claims to be. He is a spy." The evidence was irrefutable. Dupont's business deal was nothing more than a cover for a dangerous plot. President Traoré listened to Captain Zita's report, his expression unwavering. He wasn't surprised. His instincts had been right all along. But he wasn't going to simply arrest Dupont. He saw an opportunity, a chance to expose the foreign powers that were trying to meddle in Burkina Faso's affairs. "We're not going to arrest him, Captain," President Traoré declared, a glint of determination in his eyes. "We're going to use him." He explained his plan. They would feed Dupont false information, something that would seem valuable to his handlers, but would ultimately expose their network. It was a risky move, but President Traoré believed it was the only way to truly protect his country. He would turn the tables on the spies and show the world that Burkina Faso would not be manipulated. He would use their own tricks against them. The president smiled slightly, a plan forming in his mind. It was time to play a game of deception. The president and Captain Zita worked late into the night, carefully crafting the fake documents. They included details about a non-existent mining project, exaggerated reports of political instability, and fabricated rumors about disagreements within the government. They made sure the documents looked authentic, complete with official stamps and forged signatures. The plan was simple. President Traoré would arrange another meeting with Dupont and subtly present him with these secret documents. They would then observe Dupont's actions, tracking who he contacted and where the information ended up. It was a risky game, but President Traoré was confident that he could outsmart the spies. He knew that the future of Burkina Faso depended on it. The documents were their bait, and Dupont was about to take the hook. The president just hoped it would reel in the bigger fish, too. President Traoré invited Dupont back to his office. This time, the president seemed more receptive to Dupont's ideas, nodding thoughtfully as Dupont spoke. The president subtly guided the conversation toward the topics covered in the fake documents, making it seem like he was confiding in Dupont. "Mr. Dupont," the president said, leaning forward conspiratorially, "I trust you understand the delicate nature of these matters. I can show you some confidential documents if you promise to keep them safe." He then casually presented Dupont with the fabricated reports. Dupont's eyes widened as he scanned the papers, a barely concealed look of triumph on his face. He quickly pocketed the documents, thanking the president profusely for his trust. President Traoré watched him, knowing that the trap had been sprung. Now, it was just a matter of waiting to see who Dupont would betray his country to. The game was afoot. Captain Zita's team followed Dupont closely. They watched as he met secretly with several European diplomats at different locations around the city. He handed them copies of the documents, whispering urgently and looking around nervously. It was clear that he was sharing the information he had received from President Traoré. The president and Captain Zita now had proof. They knew who Dupont was working with and what their intentions were. The fake documents had served their purpose, revealing a network of spies who were trying to destabilize Burkina Faso. The trap had worked perfectly. Now it was time to reveal their findings to the world. President Traoré prepared to make a bold move, one that would show Burkina Faso's strength and determination to protect its sovereignty. The time for secrets was over. The next day, President Traoré held a press conference. News reporters from all over the world gathered in the capital, eager to hear what the president had to say. He stood tall at the podium, his voice strong and clear. "My fellow citizens," he began, "I have gathered you here today to expose a grave threat to our nation's sovereignty. We have uncovered a network of foreign spies who have been attempting to undermine our government and steal our resources." He then presented the evidence: Dupont's falsified documents, the records of his secret meetings with the European diplomats, and the testimonies of Captain Zita's team. The reporters gasped in shock as the truth was revealed. President Traoré had successfully exposed the spy network, showing the world that Burkina Faso would not be a victim of foreign manipulation. He had defended his country with intelligence and courage. "Let this be a message to anyone who seeks to control us," President Traoré declared, his voice resonating with unwavering conviction. Burkina Faso is a sovereign nation, and we will not tolerate any attempts to undermine our independence. We will defend our land, our resources, and our people with all our strength. His words were met with thunderous applause from the Burkinabe citizens who had gathered outside the palace. They were proud of their president for standing up to foreign powers and protecting their country. The press conference became a symbol of Burkina Faso's resilience and determination. President Traoré's strong stance sent a clear message to the world. Burkina Faso would not be bullied or controlled. They would chart their own course and build their own future. The era of foreign interference was over. The attempted espionage became a turning point for Burkina Faso. President Traoré called on all citizens to embrace self-sufficiency. He urged them to support local businesses, grow their own food, and develop their own industries. He wanted Burkina Faso to rely on its own strength and ingenuity, not on foreign aid or investment. The people responded enthusiastically. Farmers started planting more crops. Entrepreneurs launched new businesses, and communities worked together to build schools and hospitals. There's a renewed sense of purpose and unity in the country. Everyone wanted to contribute to building a stronger, more independent Burkina Faso. The spy incident, which had initially threatened their nation, had ironically sparked a powerful movement towards self-reliance and national pride. The people of Burkina Faso were determined to write their own story. To further inspire his people, President Traoré began sharing stories of ordinary Burkinabe citizens who were achieving extraordinary things. He told of a young woman who had started a successful textile business using traditional weaving techniques, creating jobs for women in her village. He spoke of a farmer who had developed a new irrigation system that allowed him to grow crops even during the dry season. He highlighted a group of students who were building solar panels to provide electricity to their school. These stories became symbols of hope and possibility. They showed that Burkina Faso had the talent and resources to succeed on its own. President Traoré used these examples to encourage others to follow their dreams and contribute to the nation's progress. He wanted every Burkinabe citizen to believe in their own potential and the potential of their country. These local heroes became beacons of light, guiding Burkina Faso toward a brighter future. President Traoré's courageous actions resonated far beyond the borders of Burkina Faso. Leaders from other African nations applauded his bravery in standing up to foreign interference. They saw his actions as a symbol of hope for the entire continent, a demonstration that African nations could protect their own interests and chart their own destinies. Many African leaders sent messages of support to President Traoré, praising his leadership and vowing to work together to build a stronger, more united Africa. They recognized that Burkina Faso's struggle was their struggle, and that by supporting each other, they could resist foreign manipulation and build a better future for their people. President Traoré's actions had ignited a spirit of solidarity and cooperation across the continent. He became a hero, not just to Burkina Faso, but to all of Africa. What began as a quiet morning, interrupted by a suspicious request, had transformed into a powerful statement of national pride. President Traoré's clever actions and unwavering leadership turned a potential crisis into an opportunity for growth and unity. Burkina Faso, once a target of foreign manipulation, now stood tall as a symbol of resilience and dignity. The story of Jean-Luc Dupont became a legend, a reminder that even the most cunning enemies could be outsmarted with courage and intelligence. More importantly, it served as a testament to the strength and determination of the Burkinabe people. They had faced adversity and emerged stronger, more united, and more determined than ever to control their own destiny. President Traoré's name would forever be associated with this turning point, a moment when Burkina Faso found its voice and declared its independence to the world.